The massive council chamber buzzed with worried voices. Aliens from dozens of different worlds sat in curved rows, their strange forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. Some looked like giant birds with shimmering feathers. Others appeared as walking crystals that caught the light. A few were nothing more than glowing energy trapped inside special containers. Kate Morrison sat quietly in the human section, her weathered hands folded in her lap. She had seen many battles in her 50 years, but nothing like what these aliens were describing. Her dark hair was streaked with gray, and small scars marked her face from years of fighting in space. She wore the simple blue uniform of Earth's Space Navy, looking plain next to the fancy outfits of the other delegates. The tall bird-like alien at the front of the room spread her golden feathers wide. Chancellor Vera belonged to a race called the Zephyrians, and her voice shook as she spoke. 3 more worlds have fallen, she announced. The creature we call the Voidstalker has eaten everything alive on Kepler 7, Horizon Base, and the farming colonies of New Terra. Nothing remains but dead rock. A murmur of fear rippled through the chamber. Kate watched as several aliens shifted nervously in their seats. The crystalline being next to her made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "Tell them about the fleets," called out a reptile-like creature from the back. General Thane of the Sauric Empire stood nearly 8 feet tall, his green scales gleaming under the lights. "Tell them how our greatest warships were destroyed in minutes." Chancellor Vera's feathers drooped. The Alterian energy fleet attacked first, 50 ships carrying the most powerful weapons in the galaxy. The Voidstalker swallowed their energy blasts and grew larger. Then it reached out with those terrible tentacles and crushed every ship like they were made of paper. Kate had seen the recordings. The Voidstalker looked like a nightmare come to life. It was huge, maybe 10 miles across, with a body that seemed to be made of living darkness. Long tentacles reached out from its center, each one thick as a city block. When it fed, the tentacles would wrap around planets and drain all the life away. "What about the Quarathi Mind Warriors?" asked Ambassador Nix. She belonged to a species that lived in shadows, and her form flickered like smoke as she spoke. "Did their psychic attacks work?" A crystal being near the front of the room pulsed with sad blue light. "Commander Vex tried to lead our strongest psychics against the creature. They attempted to attack its mind directly. The Voidstalker broke through their mental shields in seconds. Half of our warriors died instantly. The others are still in healing chambers, their minds shattered." Kate leaned forward slightly. She had read every report about the creature, studied every battle recording. The thing was smart, that much was clear. It didn't just attack randomly. It chose its targets carefully, always going after the richest worlds first. But there was something else, something the other species were missing. "We are running out of options," said a floating energy being. Prime Minister Zara spoke for the Alterians, and her voice sounded like music mixed with static. "The creature grows stronger with each world it consumes. Our scientists believe it will reach the core systems within 2 months. If that happens, billions will die." "More than billions," General Thane growled. "It will be the end of galactic civilization as we know it. Every species, every world reduced to lifeless stone." The chamber fell quiet except for the hum of the translation devices. Kate could feel the despair in the air like a heavy blanket. These aliens had built an empire that spanned thousands of worlds. They had technology that seemed like magic to human eyes. They could travel between stars in days, heal any disease, and had weapons that could crack planets in half, but none of it mattered against the Voidstalker. "Perhaps we should consider evacuation," suggested Senator Krill. The amphibian alien's gills fluttered nervously as she spoke. "We could move our populations to the far edge of the galaxy, beyond the creature's current path. And abandon our homes?" Chancellor Vera's voice rose to a shriek. "Leave behind everything our ancestors built? Never. Then what do you suggest?" Ambassador Nix's shadowy form rippled with anger. "We have tried everything. Our greatest heroes are dead. Our most powerful weapons are useless. The creature seems unstoppable." Kate found herself thinking about Earth. Her homeworld was considered a death trap by most galactic standards. Violent weather, dangerous animals, diseases that could kill in days, and natural disasters that wiped out entire cities. Humans had survived it all through stubbornness and clever thinking. They learned to adapt instead of trying to overpower every threat. "We need a miracle," Prime Minister Zara said softly. "Someone or something that can do what our combined forces could not." "But who?" The question came from a small mouse-like alien in the corner. "Every species has sent their finest warriors. The Void Hunters of Alteria, The Crystal Guards of Korath, the Iron Legion of the Sauric Empire, all defeated. The delegates began talking at once, their voices mixing into a chaos of different languages and sounds. Some suggested building bigger weapons. Others wanted to try negotiating with the creature. A few talked about fleeing to another galaxy entirely. Kate listened to it all and slowly shook her head. They were thinking about the problem wrong. The Voidstalker wasn't just some giant monster that could be beaten with bigger guns. It was something else entirely. Something that required a different approach. Admiral Rex Hawkins sat beside her in the human section. He was her oldest friend, a tall man with graying hair and kind eyes. They had fought together in a dozen campaigns, always finding ways to win even when the odds seemed impossible. "What are you thinking, Kate?" he whispered. She stared at the tactical display showing the creature's path of destruction. "I'm thinking everyone here is trying to fight a hurricane with a bigger hurricane. And maybe what we need is someone who knows how to dance in the storm instead." The debate continued around them, growing more desperate by the hour. But Kate was no longer listening to the words. She was studying the patterns, looking for the one thing everyone else had missed. Somewhere in all that data was the key to stopping the Voidstalker. She just had to find it before it was too late. 3 days had passed since the emergency session began, and the mood in the council chamber had grown darker with each hour. New reports arrived constantly, each one worse than the last. The Voidstalker had consumed 2 more systems, leaving nothing behind but cold, dead rocks floating in space. Kate Morrison sat in the same spot she had occupied for 3 days, her notebook filled with sketches and calculations. She had barely slept, surviving on coffee and determination while studying every piece of data about the creature. Her eyes were red with exhaustion, but her mind remained sharp and focused. The other delegates looked just as tired. Chancellor Vera's golden feathers had lost their shine, and several had fallen out from stress. General Thane paced back and forth like a caged animal, his claws scraping against the metal floor. Even the energy being seemed dimmer than before. "The mining colonies are gone," reported Captain Blake, a human officer who had just arrived with the latest intelligence. "Xerion Prime, all 6 moons, and the orbital stations. The Voidstalker stripped them clean in less than 4 hours." A low moan came from the Nautilin section. Senator Krill's amphibian features were wet with tears. Those colonies housed 3 million workers. 3 million souls just gone. "It's getting faster," observed Commander Vex, the crystal being's form pulsing with worried purple light. "Each feeding makes it stronger, more efficient." The first attacks took days. Now it can drain entire systems in hours. Kate looked up from her notes. "It's learning," she said quietly. The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the human section, where Kate stood slowly, her joints stiff from sitting too long. "What did you say?" Chancellor Vera asked. "The creature is learning," Kate repeated, louder this time. "Look at the attack patterns. Each assault is more precise than the last. It's figuring out the best ways to extract life energy from different types of worlds." "Impossible," General Thane growled. "It's just an animal, a space predator driven by hunger." "No," Kate shook her head. "Animals don't show this kind of adaptive behavior. This thing is intelligent, maybe more intelligent than we realize." Prime Minister Zara's energy form flickered with interest. "If that's true, perhaps we could attempt communication. Negotiate some kind of truce. What could we possibly offer it?" Ambassador Nix laughed bitterly. "It feeds on life itself. We can't exactly give it what it wants without destroying ourselves." Admiral Hawkins stood beside Kate, his face grim. "She's right about the learning pattern. Our analysts have been tracking the same thing. Each attack shows improvement in technique, better targeting of population centers, more efficient energy extraction." "Then we're truly doomed," Senator Krill whispered. "How do you fight an enemy that gets smarter every time it feeds?" The debate that followed was the most heated yet. Some delegates wanted to evacuate immediately, loading their populations onto colony ships and fleeing to the edge of known space. Others insisted on making a final stand, throwing everything they had at the creature in one last desperate battle. "We could detonate stars in its path," suggested a Sauric military advisor. "Create a barrier of supernovas that even the Voidstalker couldn't cross, and destroy hundreds of inhabited systems in the process?" Chancellor Vera's voice rose to a shriek. "That's genocide on a galactic scale." "Better than extinction," General Thane replied coldly. Kate listened to the arguments while continuing to study her data. The creature's path wasn't random. That much was certain. It was following specific routes through space, targeting particular types of worlds. There was a pattern here, a logic that no one else seemed to see. "We need to face facts," declared Commander Vex. "Our greatest champions have fallen. The legendary Void Hunters, the most elite warriors in Alterian history, were consumed without even slowing the creature down. The Korathi Mind Warriors lasted less than 10 minutes, added a psychic being whose name Kate couldn't pronounce. Fighters who had trained for centuries to battle creatures of the void defeated like children. Even the Iron Legion," General Thane's voice cracked with emotion. "1,000 of our finest soldiers equipped with our most advanced weapons. They didn't even scratch its hide before being torn apart." The weight of despair in the chamber was overwhelming. Kate could see it in every face, every gesture. These beings had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, but now they faced something beyond their understanding or power to stop. Then who? The question came from Ambassador Nyx, her shadowy form rippling with frustration. Who among all our species could possibly face such a monster? Who has the strength to stand where our greatest heroes have fallen? Who has the weapons to succeed where our most advanced technology has failed? Added Prime Minister Zara. Who has the courage to fight when certain death awaits? Chancellor Vera's voice broke on the last word. The chamber fell completely silent. The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Every species represented here had already sent their best and bravest. The Alterians with their energy mastery, the Korathi with their psychic powers, the Saurics with their unstoppable warriors, all had failed. Kate felt something stirring inside her chest, a familiar feeling she recognized from countless battles. It was the same sensation she had felt when facing impossible odds during humanity's first expansion into space. When told something couldn't be done, humans had a stubborn habit of proving everyone wrong. She thought about Earth, her harsh and unforgiving homeworld. A planet that had tried to kill humanity through ice ages, plagues, volcanic eruptions, and asteroid impacts. But humans had survived it all, not through superior strength or advanced technology, but through adaptability and sheer bloody-minded determination. Who could face the monster? Ambassador Nyx repeated the question that had become a desperate plea. Kate looked around the chamber at all these advanced beings, these masters of technology and wielders of cosmic power. They had tried to fight the Voidstalker like it was just another enemy to be overpowered. But what if that was the problem? What if the answer wasn't about being stronger or more advanced? What if it was about being different? Slowly, deliberately, Kate Morrison raised her hand. The gesture was so simple, so quiet, that half the delegates missed it entirely. But Admiral Hawkins saw it immediately, and his face went pale with shock. "Kate," he whispered, "what are you doing?" "Someone has to," she replied softly. One by one, the other delegates noticed her raised hand. The chamber began to buzz with confused voices as the aliens tried to understand what the human was suggesting. "Surely you cannot be serious," Chancellor Vera said, her voice filled with disbelief. "Human Morrison, your species has been part of our galactic community for barely 50 years. You lack our advanced technologies, our centuries of combat experience, our mastery of cosmic forces." Kate kept her hand raised, meeting the Chancellor's gaze steadily. "Maybe that's exactly what we need." The silence that followed was deafening. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Dozens of alien voices rose at once, creating a symphony of disbelief, outrage, and confusion. Kate Morrison stood calmly in the center of it all, her hand still raised, waiting for the storm to pass. "This is madness," Chancellor Vera declared, her golden feathers bristling with agitation. "Human Morrison, I mean no disrespect to your species, but you have been part of our galactic community for only 50 years. The Voidstalker has existed since before our oldest civilizations were born." General Thane's massive form loomed over his seat as he stood. "The human speaks of suicide. Our greatest warriors, beings who trained for centuries, could not even approach the creature. What hope does one person from a primitive world have?" Kate lowered her hand and stepped forward. The chamber gradually quieted as delegates realized she intended to speak. Her boots echoed on the metal floor as she walked to the center of the room, where a holographic display showed the Voidstalker's path of destruction. "You're all thinking about this wrong," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. "Every species here has tried to fight this thing like it's just another enemy to be overpowered. But it's not. It's a force of nature. And how does that help us? demanded Commander Vex, the crystal being's form pulsing with skeptical orange light. Kate gestured to the holographic display. On Earth, we get hurricanes, massive storms that can level entire cities. When we first encountered them, humans tried to fight them directly. We built walls, we fired cannons into the wind, we sent our bravest warriors to stand against the storm. What happened? Asked Senator Krill, her amphibian features showing genuine curiosity. They all died, Kate replied simply. The storm didn't care how brave they were or how strong their weapons were. It was bigger than any human effort to stop it. So you gave up? General Thane's voice carried a note of contempt. No, Kate smiled grimly. We learned. We stopped trying to fight hurricanes and started learning to survive them. We built shelters that bent with the wind instead of trying to stop it. We developed warning systems that told us when to hide and when it was safe to come out. We adapted. Prime Minister Zara's energy form flickered with interest. You're suggesting we cannot defeat the Void Stalker directly. I'm suggesting that maybe direct confrontation isn't the answer, Kate replied. Look at its behavior patterns. This thing isn't just mindlessly destroying everything in its path. It's selective. It chooses certain types of worlds over others, follows specific routes through space. That suggests intelligence, maybe even purpose. Admiral Hawkins activated his datapad and transmitted information to the main display. Kate's right. Our analysis shows 17 distinct behavioral patterns that suggest complex decision-making. The creature isn't just hungry, it's hunting according to some kind of strategy. Even if that's true, Ambassador Nix said, her shadowy form rippling with doubt. How does that help us? Intelligence makes it more dangerous, not less. Kate moved closer to the display, pointing to specific data points. Intelligence means it has preferences, habits, maybe even weaknesses. Every thinking creature does. The Alterians prefer energy-rich environments. The Quarathi need psychic resonance to feel comfortable. The Sorcs thrive in high-gravity worlds. What if the Void Stalker has similar preferences? You're talking about studying it, Chancellor Vera said slowly. Getting close enough to observe its behavior patterns. Exactly, Kate nodded. But not with a massive fleet that it will see coming from light years away. Not with psychic probes that it can detect and destroy. With something small, quiet, and unexpected. Suicide, General Thane repeated. You're describing an elaborate form of suicide. Maybe, Kate admitted. But every other approach has already failed. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Commander Vex pulsed with frustrated red light. Even if you could get close to the creature, what then? Our most powerful weapons couldn't harm it. What could one human possibly do that our combined fleets could not? Kate was quiet for a long moment, staring at the data streaming across the display. When she finally spoke, her voice was thoughtful.
You know what humans are really good at?
We're good at finding pressure points. David beat Goliath not because he was stronger, but because he found the one spot where the giant was vulnerable. The creature has no visible weak points, protested a Nautilin scientist. Our scans show a uniform energy matrix with no structural vulnerabilities. Your scans are looking for physical weaknesses, Kate replied. What if the vulnerability isn't physical? What if it's behavioral or psychological or something else entirely? Admiral Hawkins stood beside his old friend. Kate's species has a saying, if you want to beat a predator, you have to think like prey. Humans didn't become the dominant species on Earth by being the strongest or fastest. They did it by being the smartest and most adaptable. Earth is what we call a death world, Kate continued. A planet so hostile that most galactic species can't survive there for more than a few hours. Humans evolved on a world that was constantly trying to kill them. We learned to survive by being unpredictable, by thinking outside the normal patterns. And you believe this gives you an advantage against the Void Stalker? Chancellor Vera asked. I believe it gives me a different perspective, Kate corrected. Every species here has tried to fight this thing using their greatest strengths. The Alterians used pure energy. The Quarathi used psychic force. The Sorcs used overwhelming firepower. What if the answer isn't using our greatest strength, but thinking in ways the creature doesn't expect? The chamber fell silent as the delegates considered her words. Kate could see the internal struggle on many faces. These were advanced civilizations that had ruled the galaxy through superior technology and ancient wisdom. The idea that a human from a backwater world might succeed where they had failed was difficult to accept. What exactly are you proposing? Prime Minister Zara asked finally. Kate took a deep breath. I want to take a small ship, one that can avoid detection and get close enough to study the Void Stalker in action. Not to fight it, not to try to destroy it, but to understand it. Find out what it really wants, how it thinks, what makes it tick. And then, General Thane demanded. Then I find its pressure point, Kate replied. Every predator has one. Even something as powerful as the Void Stalker has to have some kind of weakness, some vulnerability that can be exploited. But we can't find it by throwing bigger weapons at the problem. This is still suicide, Ambassador Nix observed. One ship, one human, against a creature that has destroyed entire fleets. Kate smiled, and for the first time in days there was genuine warmth in her expression. You know what the first human astronauts said when they were told that going to space was impossible? They said, "Hold my beer and watch this." What does that mean? Senator Krill asked, confused. Admiral Hawkins chuckled despite the grim situation. It means humans have a long history of doing impossible things just to prove they can be done. Kate nodded toward her old friend. Sometimes the right tool for the job isn't the biggest hammer. Sometimes it's the smallest key. And sometimes when you're facing a monster that thinks it's unbeatable, what you really need is someone crazy enough to prove it wrong. The human ship Defiance looked like a tiny metal insect compared to the massive alien vessels surrounding it. Where the other ships in the fleet gleamed with energy shields and bristled with advanced weapons, Kate's craft appeared almost primitive. Its hull was dark gray, built for stealth rather than show, and it carried none of the elegant curves or flowing lines favored by galactic ship designers. Kate Morrison sat in the pilot's seat, running through her final checks. The cockpit was cramped and functional, filled with human-built instruments that seemed crude next to alien technology. But every system had been tested and retested, modified for this one impossible mission. Defiance, this is Admiral Zara of the Alterian Defense Corps, came a musical voice through the communication system. We're tracking the Void Stalker at grid reference 77 Alpha. It's currently feeding on the remains of the Centauri research station. Kate's hands moved across the controls with practiced efficiency. Copy that, Admiral. Beginning my approach now. Kate, Admiral Hawkins' voice crackled through the comm. You don't have to do this. We could try another fleet assault, maybe coordinate a multi-species attack. She smiled grimly as she brought the ship's systems online. Rex, we've been friends for 20 years. You know I'm too stubborn to quit now. Besides, David beat Goliath with a sling and a rock. I've got thermonuclear warheads and a really bad attitude. The Defiance pulled away from the fleet, its stealth systems already beginning to mask its presence. Kate had spent weeks working with human engineers to modify the ship's signature, making it as invisible as possible to conventional sensors. The idea was to slip past the creature's defenses like a ghost. Through the viewports, Kate could see the Void Stalker in the distance. Even from hundreds of miles away, it was terrifying to behold. The creature hung in space like a living nightmare, its form defying easy description. The main body was roughly spherical but seemed to shift and flow like liquid shadow. Dozens of massive tentacles reached out from its center, each one thick as a skyscraper and miles long. As Kate watched, one of the tentacles wrapped around the broken remains of a space station. The metal structure simply dissolved, its matter and energy being absorbed into the creature's body. In seconds, nothing remained but empty space. Target acquired, Kate reported to the fleet. Beginning close approach for observation. Be careful, Human Morrison, came Chancellor Vera's worried voice. The creature's energy field extends for thousands of kilometers. Even getting close could be fatal. Kate checked her instruments as the Defiance moved deeper into the Void Stalker's territory. The readings were unlike anything she had seen before. Space itself seemed twisted around the creature, reality bending under the weight of its presence. Her ship's hull began to vibrate as they entered the outer edges of the energy field. I'm picking up massive gravitational distortions, she reported. This thing isn't just feeding on matter and energy, it's actually warping space-time around itself. That's impossible, came Commander Vex's crystal voice. Nothing biological should be capable of that level of space-time manipulation. Maybe it's not entirely biological, Kate mused, watching her instruments carefully. The creature's energy signature was unlike anything in the galactic databases. It seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially in some other dimension. As the Defiance drew closer, Kate felt the creature's attention turn toward her ship. It was like being watched by something vast and ancient, a presence that pressed against her mind with crushing weight. Waves of primal terror washed over her. the kind of fear that came from facing a predator far beyond human understanding. But Kate had grown up on Earth, a world that had been trying to kill humanity for millions of years. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, plagues that wiped out entire civilizations. Terror was an old friend that she had learned to live with. "Come on, you oversized leech," she muttered, adjusting her course to avoid a sweeping tentacle. "Let's see what you're really made of." The Voidstalker's response was immediate and violent. Energy tentacles lashed out toward the Defiance, each one carrying enough power to vaporize a battleship. But Kate didn't try to fight them head-on. Instead, she danced between the attacks, using the creature's massive size against it. Pattern recognition confirmed. She called out to the fleet. "It definitely shows intelligence, but it thinks like a deep space predator. It expects prey to either run away or attack directly. It doesn't expect prey to study it first." The battle turned into a deadly game of cat and mouse. Kate pushed her ship through maneuvers that would have been impossible for the larger alien vessels. She dove between tentacles, skimmed along the creature's hull, and used its own energy fields to hide from its senses. "Admiral Morrison," came a panicked transmission from General Thane. "Your ship's readings are becoming unstable. You must retreat before the creature destroys you." "Not yet," Kate replied, her ship spinning wildly to avoid another energy blast. "I'm learning something important here. This thing has layers of defenses, but they're all designed to stop conventional attacks." She flew deeper into the creature's energy matrix, where the very air seemed to burn with dark fire. Her ship's shields were holding, but barely. Warning lights flashed across her control panel as systems began to overload. "Kate, get out of there," Admiral Hawkins shouted. "Whatever you're trying to prove, it's not worth your life." "I've found something," Kate said, her voice tight with concentration. "The creature has a pattern to its attacks. It's not random violence, it's systematic, like it's following some kind of program or instinct." The Voidstalker seemed to realize that its normal tactics weren't working. The creature began to change its approach, using more complex attack patterns and trying to trap Kate's ship with coordinated tentacle movements. "It's adapting," Kate observed with a mixture of awe and fear. "The damn thing is learning from our fight, figuring out new ways to catch me." "Then retreat immediately," Chancellor Vera pleaded. "You've learned enough." But Kate was deep in the zone now, that state of heightened awareness that came during the most dangerous battles. Her mind was processing information at lightning speed, cataloging every detail of the creature's behavior. She could see patterns that the alien fleets had missed, subtle behaviors that revealed important truths about their enemy. "I need to go deeper," she announced, ignoring the horrified gasps from the fleet. "There's something at the center, something that's controlling all these tentacles." "Kate, no." Admiral Hawkins' voice cracked with emotion. "Don't throw your life away on a hunch." "It's not a hunch," she replied, guiding her ship through a gap in the creature's defenses. "Look at the energy patterns. All these tentacles are connected to something, a central consciousness that coordinates their movements." Her ship plunged into the heart of the Voidstalker's energy field, where space itself seemed to scream with alien power. The hull began to glow with heat as exotic energies washed over it. Kate could feel the creature's mind pressing against hers, trying to crush her sanity with its vast and terrible presence. But she held on, driven by pure human stubbornness and the desperate hope that she might find something, anything that could help save the galaxy. "There," she whispered, staring at her instruments in amazement. "I can see it now. The central core, where all the neural pathways converge. It's not just the creature's brain. It's like a quantum computer processing information across multiple dimensions." "Even if you're right," came Commander Vex's voice, "how does that help us?" "We still can't damage it." Kate's smile was fierce and determined. "Maybe we don't need to damage it. Maybe we just need to confuse it long enough to find a real weakness." She began to execute the most dangerous part of her plan, pushing deeper into the creature's consciousness while it tried desperately to crush her ship. The battle was far from over, but for the first time since the crisis began, Kate Morrison had hope. The battle had raged for 6 hours and Kate Morrison's ship was barely holding together. Warning lights flashed red across every control panel, and the hull groaned under the stress of dodging attacks from something that shouldn't exist in normal space. But Kate herself had never felt more alive. "Defiance, your hull integrity is down to 30%, Admiral Hawkins reported, his voice tight with worry. "Kate, you've proven your point. Please pull back before it's too late." Kate wiped sweat from her forehead as she spun her ship through another impossible maneuver. A tentacle the size of a city block swept past her viewport, missing by mere yards. Not yet, Rex. I'm starting to understand how this thing thinks. She had been dancing with the Void Stalker for hours, learning its patterns, testing its responses. What she discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. The creature wasn't just intelligent, it was brilliant in an alien way that hurt to contemplate. "Admiral Morrison," came Chancellor Vera's voice through the comm, "we're reading massive energy buildup in the creature's core. It may be preparing for some kind of final attack." "Good," Kate replied, surprising everyone listening. "That's exactly what I was hoping for." Through her ship's cameras, she could see the Voidstalker's main body beginning to glow with dark energy. The creature was getting frustrated with her hit-and-run tactics. It wanted to end this annoying little pest once and for all. "Kate, what are you doing?" Admiral Hawkins demanded. "You're provoking it deliberately." "I'm making it angry," she confirmed, pushing her ship's engines to maximum power. "Angry creatures make mistakes, and when something this powerful makes a mistake, it might reveal something important." The Voidstalker struck with the force of a collapsing star. Energy beams thick as battleships lanced out from its core, turning empty space into a furnace of destruction. But Kate was already moving, her ship diving and weaving through the attack pattern like a leaf in a hurricane. "Incredible," breathed Commander Vex. "How is she avoiding those energy blasts? They're moving faster than light." "She's not avoiding them," observed General Thane with grudging admiration. "She's predicting them. Somehow, the human is anticipating where the creature will attack next." Kate's mind was working at full speed, processing every detail of the Voidstalker's behavior. Hours of observation had taught her something crucial. The creature's attacks weren't random. They followed predictable patterns based on its prey's movements. "I've got it," she announced suddenly. "The creature doesn't just think like a predator, it thinks like a very specific type of predator. It's using hunting strategies from the deep void, places where prey is scarce and you only get one chance to feed." "What does that mean?" Senator Krill asked. "It means it's programmed to be efficient above all else," Kate explained, dodging another energy blast. "It never wastes energy on uncertain attacks. Every move is calculated to maximize the chance of a successful kill." She pulled her ship into a steep dive, heading straight for the creature's central mass. The Voidstalker responded exactly as she expected, tentacles converging on her position to crush the annoying pest that had been harassing it for hours. "Kate, you're flying directly into its main body," Prime Minister Zara said, her energy form flickering with alarm. "That's suicide." "Maybe," Kate replied calmly. "Or maybe it's the only way to get close enough to the core to see what I need to see." Her ship plunged through layers of dark energy, each one pressing against her mind with crushing weight. The Voidstalker's consciousness was vast and alien, filled with hunger that stretched back millions of years. But underneath the hunger, Kate sensed something else. Something that might be vulnerability. "There," she whispered, staring at her instruments in amazement. "I can see it now. The core isn't just a brain, it's a quantum processing center. It's connected to multiple dimensions, drawing energy from sources we can't even detect. That makes it more dangerous." "Not less," General Thane pointed out. "No." "You don't understand," Kate said excitedly. "Those quantum connections are what make it vulnerable. It's like a computer network spread across different realities. If you could disrupt the connections at just the right moment," the Voidstalker seemed to sense her discovery. Its attacks became more frenzied, more desperate. Tentacles lashed out from every direction while energy beams turned the space around Kate's ship into a storm of destruction. "The creature is changing its behavior," observed Commander Vex. "It's no longer hunting. It's trying to prevent the human from escaping with what she's learned." Kate's ship was battered and burning, but she had seen enough. The Voidstalker's greatest strength was also its greatest weakness. The quantum connections that made it so powerful also made it dependent on a very specific type of dimensional stability. "Admiral Morrison," Chancellor Vera called out, "you must retreat immediately. Your ship cannot take much more damage." "I'm not retreating," Kate replied, her voice filled with grim determination. "I'm going to end this right here, right now." "How?" Admiral Hawkins demanded. "Kate, whatever you're thinking, don't do it. We can find another way." Kate smiled as she activated her ship's final gambit. Hidden in the cargo bay were experimental weapons that most galactic civilizations would consider primitive. Thermonuclear devices built with human technology. But these weren't ordinary bombs. They had been modified with quantum disruptors, devices designed to interfere with the kinds of dimensional connections the Voidstalker relied on. "Remember what I said about David and Goliath?" she asked, her ship diving straight toward the creature's core. "Sometimes the right weapon isn't the biggest or most advanced. Sometimes it's just the one your enemy doesn't see coming." The Voidstalker realized too late what she was planning. Its tentacles reached out desperately, trying to crush her ship before she could complete her suicide run. But Kate had spent hours learning its attack patterns, and she knew exactly how to slip through its defenses. "For Earth," she whispered, and activated her ship's stealth systems one final time. To the Voidstalker's senses, which were attuned to advanced energy signatures and psychic emanations, the human ship simply vanished. The creature's quantum consciousness couldn't process something so primitive, so crude, that it barely registered as technology at all. Kate's ship materialized inside the creature's core matrix and detonated its cargo in a carefully timed sequence. The explosions weren't particularly powerful by galactic standards, but they struck at exactly the right frequencies to disrupt the quantum entanglement holding the Voidstalker's consciousness. Together, the creature's death scream echoed across multiple dimensions as its distributed mind collapsed in on itself. For a moment that lasted an eternity, the ancient predator experienced something it had never known in millions of years of existence: genuine surprise. Then it was gone, its massive form dissolving into harmless energy that dispersed into the void between stars. Kate's battered ship drifted in the empty space where the Voidstalker had been, its pilot unconscious but alive. As rescue vessels converged on her position, the watching fleet struggled to comprehend what they had just witnessed. How was all Chancellor Vera could manage when Kate was brought aboard the medical ship hours later. Kate smiled weakly from her hospital bed, her face pale but her eyes bright with satisfaction. Simple. Everyone else tried to fight it like a god or a force of nature. I fought it like what it really was, just another predator that had gotten too comfortable being at the top of the food chain. "But our most advanced weapons couldn't even scratch it," protested Commander Vex. "That's because you were using advanced weapons," Kate replied. "The creature's defenses were specifically designed to handle energy attacks, psychic assaults, and other sophisticated threats. It never expected someone to attack it with crude matter bombs and quantum static generators." General Thane shook his massive head in amazement. "On Earth you have a saying about this, don't you?" Kate's grin was pure human mischief. "Yeah. Sometimes it takes a human to remind the universe that the bigger they are, the harder they fall." The medical bay fell silent as the implications sank in. The greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced had been defeated not by superior technology or ancient wisdom, but by human stubbornness and the willingness to think outside conventional patterns. In the days that followed, as the news spread throughout galactic civilization, a new understanding began to emerge. The humans from the little blue world weren't just another member species of the galactic community. They were something else entirely, the ones you called when the impossible needed to be done.